Studio now is Kibe Mungai. He is a lawyer. He has been following up this particular case since the ruling began earlier on in the morning. He now joins us in studio for an update or to help us dissect that particular ruling. Thank you very much for joining us. In essence, what does this ruling mean?
I think the basic issue about the ruling is that it has upheld the decision that was made about 2 months ago by the High Court, to the effect that the presidential elections that would be announced by the constituency returning officers would be final, and they are not subject to any further verifications or alteration at the National Tallying Center.
Yeah.
Now, the meaning of that is that, in effect, whatever would be announced at the constituency level, you cannot be able to vary it, and the only change that can be accorded to them is by challenging those specific results before the election court. The election court, for purposes of presidential election, is a Supreme Court.
So what are the reasons the judges gave for upholding this particular decision by the High Court?
There are three important reasons that I heard them say. Number one is that in their interpretations of the constitutions, Article 86 of the constitutions, together with Article 138 of the constitutions and the regulations, the principal role of determining whether or not about the regularity of the elections that have been held at the constituency level is a constituency returning officer. Number two, in their interpretations of the law, the actual elections takes place at the polling centers. And the final officer, in terms of the forms that are filled for purposes of verifying whatever votes have come from the polling centers, is actually the constituency returning officer. And since it is at that local level that we have agents and we have the candidates themselves are represented, and these are officers of the commissions, the results that would be declared there would have satisfied the requirement for verification in every sense from a practical point of view. And finally, as far as they are concerned, the role of the returning officer, who is the chairman of IEBC, is minimal. It is only to, in a sense, add up whatever results have come from the constituency, confirm whether the requirement of 50+1 has been reached, confirm whether the candidates have the requisite number of, the winning candidate has the requisite number of counties supporting him or her, and then declare who is the winner. After now you have done the tabulations and you've done the math, and you know these ones got all this number of votes, you have won these counties, and you have 50+1 or not. And therefore, in actual sense, it would effectively mean that at the tallying center, the role of the commissions alongside the chairman would be very minimal. You just tally the results and announce them in the sense of what you had received. Now, of course, there would be many arguments that would result from these. One of them being, if honestly there is a difficulty in some results that have come from a certain constituencies, your hands are tied. You announce whatever you got, for better for us. I hope it will not be for us, because if there is a result that is genuinely bad, and it is being announced at the tallying center,
that means there's nothing he can do about it.
Yes, that's what it means. You cannot do anything about it. At least that is what the decisions means as of now.
We know that there's a window. We know that there's a window for IEBC to appeal this particular case, but with just 45 days to go to the election, as a lawyer, would this be advisable?
In my view, I would say it would be advisable, because in all cases that you have had two polarized positions, I would say it's advisable that the highest court in the land, which in this case happens to be the Supreme Court, to declare its own view of the law. Number two, at the end of the day, the election court is a Supreme Court. And therefore, since you're assuming a petition is filed either this year or another year, it is that court that should be able to implement those rules. In terms of any contest about those results, I think it would only be fair that we have the take of the of the Supreme Court on this issue. But about the period that you're talking about, whether it is too short, I think chances are that because it was known from the word go that the party that loses is likely to appeal to the Supreme Court, the judgment is likely to be ready, and assuming this judgment is ready by Tuesday or Wednesday, an appeal can be filed. And ordinarily, since all the record is available, and since this judgment appears to be typed, it is possible within 2 weeks to have this appeal heard by the Supreme Court. I think even if as members of the legal professions, we can only benefit from what the judges will be hearing. Any disputes we'll have to say on these issues.
You've mentioned that we will definitely have a loophole in terms of if the results from the constituency level come up to the National Tallying Center and they are faulty, and the chairman of the IEBC, who is the chief presiding officer, cannot do anything about it. Is it a risk we are taking with this? Knowing
your
own personal view, knowing how elections are in this country.
It is a big risk. And I was involved in very many disputes. We had them the other day. And across the country, we had scenarios where results announced at the constituencies level were extremely faulty. Some were supposed to be announced, for example, in place Mombasa Road. They ended up being announced in town. Others where the voting indicated about 100,000 people have voted. We had results indicating 200,000 people voted. Those were returning officers for purposes of the party primaries. What prevent this from happening again?
I would want you to hold that thought. We're definitely coming back to this discussion as you analyze for us what this ruling really means in essence. Kibe Mungai is a lawyer. Let's take our first commercial break. Don't go too far. We still have a lot more lined up for you here on KTN News Desk.